Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you this Thursday. Condemnation and criticism over a massive aerial attack.
Russia is not yet ready to negotiate.
An assault that flies in the face of peace talks.
We had one kid that covered up another kid and took a shotgun blast to his back.
Harrowing stories of heroism and heartbreak.
Humiliation, intimidation, isolation tactics continue to permeate at all levels.
Plus, how to change that toxic culture in Canadian sports.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
One day after a gunman fired bullet after bullet into the window of a church where children were attending Mass, we are hearing stories of heroism from some of the kids. 2 children were murdered, more than a dozen injured, and police have now revealed more about the shooter's evil plan. CTV's Mike Couture is in Washington with more on today's developments. Mike.
Well, Sandy, law enforcement officials say the shooter's diary shows he was obsessed with killing children. Now, inside the church, they recovered 3 shotgun shells and 116 rifle rounds.
Where are they?
The panic is palpable. Video taken by a father who ran into the church after the shooting shows children and adults rush out of the building.
Right when I heard the shots, I knew something was off. I didn't think that they would have, a lot of my classmates thought it was confetti and fireworks, but I didn't think they would have that during the middle of the church service.
Today outside the church, residents lay flowers and stuffed animals at a makeshift memorial. And stories of heroism continue to emerge.
I might be saying too much, but we had one kid that covered up another kid and took a shotgun blast to his back and things like that. 2 white crosses sit outside the church as a sobering reminder of the 8- and 10-year-old victims. Officials say the total injured is now 18 people.
6 of those patients are in satisfactory condition. 5 of those patients are children. We have 2 patients in serious condition, 1 adult and 1 child. And we have 1 child in critical condition presently.
While searching for a motive, police are focusing on a now deleted video manifesto. In it, 23-year-old Robin Westman shows diary entries describing the killing of children. There was also a drawing of the sanctuary of the church and videos of weapons and bullets.
We don't have specific information as to why this church was targeted, other than the fact that he was a parishioner there. We believe the shooter did go to school there. We believe the shooter's mother did work for the parish. So there's obviously a connection between the shooter and the parish.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the suspect an evil monster and reiterated that the FBI is investigating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. Sandy?
CTV's Mike Couture in Washington. Thanks, Mike. Well, it's being called one of the biggest and deadliest attacks on Ukraine since the Russian invasion. More than 600 missiles and drones raining down damage and death on multiple sites, including in Kyiv, the offices of the EU delegation. 21 people are dead, among them children. CTV's Rachel Aiello now on the deadly escalation at a time when peace talks are supposed to be underway. Rachel.
Sandy, as first responders clear the rubble, Canadian officials are calling the overnight attack horrific, accusing Russian President Vladimir Putin of deliberately targeting civilians and asserting this only hardens allies' resolve to see the war end.
Multiple body bags pulled from this smoldering residential building in Kyiv after Russia launched a massive air attack on the capital. Dozens of buildings were hit or damaged by debris. Russia claimed the strikes were targeting Ukraine's military-industrial complex, but the death toll, expected to climb, already includes 4 children.
The Ukrainians are holding very hard, and so the Russians are pounding. They're not willing to negotiate yet.
The attack, the first targeting the city center since the Alaska summit, raising new questions about where U.S. President Donald Trump's peace talks stand.
He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised.
The European Union and United Kingdom are summoning Russia's envoys after strikes damage their diplomatic offices in the capital.
We are keeping maximum pressure on Russia.
The Canadian embassy was not hit. Foreign Affairs confirming all staff are safe. But that didn't deter Prime Minister Mark Carney from blasting Russia in a lengthy statement. By murdering when he should be talking, Putin demonstrates in the most horrific manner that his mission to subsume the Ukrainian people under his tyranny continues. Carney said in part, the Prime Minister was just in Kyiv, where he vowed Canada's aid contributions could expand in the event of a ceasefire.
And I would not exclude the presence of troops.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been working the phones with top world leaders in the aftermath of the attack. He's thanking them for their support and pressing for tough new sanctions on Russia. Sandy?
Rachel Aiello in Ottawa. More details about an incident that sparked debate over self-defense that had police charging an Ontario man with assault after an intruder broke into his apartment. Court documents revealed the trespasser was armed with a crossbow. On the morning of August the 18th, Michael Kyle Breen allegedly broke into Jeremy McDonald's home and an altercation ensued. McDonald was charged with assault. Breen, the alleged intruder, was airlifted to a Toronto hospital with serious injuries and was also charged with multiple offenses. Well, another blow to a region near the Canada-U.S. border. Windsor is already on tenterhooks with the auto industry and Donald Trump's tariff crosshairs. Now, the plant in nearby Amherstburg that bottles Crown Royal, an iconic Canadian whiskey with a storied history, is closing and shifting work to south of the border. CTV's Adrian Gobriel now with the job losses and the heart-wrenching effect on a community. Adrian.
Yeah, Sandy, that Crown Royal bottling facility you mentioned near the Detroit-Windsor border in Amherstburg, Ontario, is that community's largest employer. And some are pointing towards the Trump trade war as a motive for the move.
We need to maintain the jobs. Without the jobs, we become a bedroom community, and I, as mayor, do not want that. We're trying to increase our commercial industrial base. We've been very successful in the last year. This is a major blow.
In a statement, the parent company of Crown Royal says this decision reflects Diageo's efforts to continuously improve its North American supply chain and ensure the company is best positioned for long-term sustainable growth. Through this process, the company will unlock additional productivity and increase resiliency and capacity to scale, effectively meeting demand across its markets and shifting some bottling volume to be closer to its many U.S. Crown Royal consumers.
To be quite frank with you, I was pissed off. So I made it clear to the company that they have a fight on their hands because it was basically reading me a letter with no details, just saying it was a business decision. You have generations of families that have worked there.
Now, the plant, which employs about 160 people, will be closing this coming February. Diageo says that Crown Royal products destined for the domestic market and non-U.S. marketplaces will continue to be bottled in Quebec. Sandy.
All right, Adrian, thanks so much for this. A decision to close many of Ontario's beer stores this fall has presented consumers with a unique problem. Okay, sure, brew will be available in supermarkets and convenience stores, but what to do with the empties? CTV's Heather Wright looks into that for us.
Last year, more than 1.6 billion empties were returned to Ontario beer stores, according to the retailer.
It's $33 here.
But with more than 100 locations either shuttered or slated to close by the end of the year, some fear the program won't survive.
Where were those people going to get their money back? You're not going to drive an hour to a beer store.
Most provinces have some sort of deposit return program, whether it's through retailers or purpose-built depots. In Ontario, the program has been run by the beer store for decades, a retailer owned by international brewing companies that once had a monopoly on beer sales in the province. The Ford government canceled that contract, allowing for beer and wine to be sold in grocery and convenience stores, paying a $225 million penalty to end it early.
There is more points of sale to buy it, but what's going to happen with the recycling and the empties?
At this point, it's unclear. According to the province, grocery stores that sell alcohol must begin accepting empties and providing refunds on January 1st. But now some grocers, including Loblaws, Metro, and Sobeys, are rethinking selling booze. Retail settings are not designed to accommodate bulk returns of alcohol containers, the Retail Council of Canada said in a statement. Given the cost and operational complexities of managing alcohol returns, some retailers are reassessing whether it remains viable to continue selling alcohol. The union representing beer store workers expects more closures next year, a hit to recycling efforts and to those who rely on empties to make ends meet.
This is really helpful for us.
The province says the beer store will continue to operate the deposit and return program until 2031, but with more and more locations like this one closing, it's not clear if consumers will go out of their way to return their empties. Sandy.
Okay, thanks so much, Heather. We got a snapshot today of the state of sport in Canada from the Future of Sport Commission. The takeaway from the preliminary report: abuse, harassment, and discrimination are widespread and ongoing in a culture of silence. CTV's Andrew Johnson was listening to the Commissioner's assessment and recommendations. Hi, Andrew.
Sandy, in a word, this snapshot of Canadian sport is disturbing, but hardly surprising, after years of brave athletes speaking out.
Do you see this?
They traveled the country for a year, speaking to hundreds of athletes, administrators, coaches, and parents. The consensus, clear.
The Canadian sports system is in crisis. As many have told us, it is broken.
The Future of Sport in Canada Commission found evidence of widespread abuse and mistreatment at all levels. A lack of protection for children and Olympians alike, left vulnerable.
Physical punishment, sexual assault, training while injured, humiliation, intimidation, isolation tactics, failures to provide medical care, discrimination and exploitation.
The commission also found in a win-at-all-costs culture of silence, when an athlete musters up the courage to come forward, they often run into a brick wall.
Lost in the web of various complaints mechanism, resulting in many feeling helpless and abandoned.
The commission is making 71 recommendations for change. It suggests the creation of a unified national safe sport tribunal to eliminate the patchwork between local, provincial, and federally regulated organizations and enforce legislation at all levels. Federal funding being made conditional on compliance, background checks, and a nationwide public registry to flag wrongdoers and restrict access. Survivors of abuse like gymnast Amelia Klein say with the release of this report, their horrible experiences are finally being validated.
To have them influence what we hope is going to be meaningful change in the system is, there are hardly words to actually describe what that feels like.
She says the ball is now in Ottawa's court to act. These are only recommendations that, after another round of feedback, will then be presented to government. Sandy.
All right, CTV's Andrew Johnson. The Supreme Court of Canada is dismissing the case of an Ontario beach town and its claim to be a coveted shoreline. Its claim to a coveted shoreline, that is. Earlier this summer, a sign welcoming visitors to Saugeen Beach replaced the one that said Sabo Beach. It follows an Ontario court ruling granting ownership to the Saugeen First Nation of a 2.2-kilometer stretch of the shoreline. The town of South Bruce Peninsula had appealed the decision. Well, it was known as the Sixties Scoop, a time when thousands of Indigenous children were taken from their homes and adopted by other families. Last night, CTV National News had the story of a touching reunion between a mother and her son. Today, another survivor goes back in time. Here's CTV's Alex Carpa.
Yeah, this was the group that I posted in.
It took years for Catherine Strongwind to find her biological family. She was only a year old when she was taken from them in 1973.
I didn't know that I had 4 siblings and that my parents had passed away before I turned 11 years old.
She tried on numerous occasions to reconnect with her siblings, but was unsuccessful.
They didn't know about me and were suspicious.
It's been a painful journey for Strongwind. Even though she didn't get the chance to reconnect, she at least has an understanding of her family tree, but many still don't know. Strongwind wants to see provinces allow survivors and families full access to child welfare records.
There's still some pieces of the Adoption Act that needs to be changed.
It was known as the 60s Scoop, but it took place between the 1950s all the way to the mid-80s, with an estimated 20,000 Indigenous children taken from their families and placed into non-Indigenous homes right across the country. And thousands were taken outside of Canada. Survivor Jonathan Hooker from New Zealand returned to Manitoba Manitoba for the first time in 50 years on Wednesday after tracing his roots back to Moose Lake in northern Manitoba. 60 Scoop advocate Colleen Rajat says she would like to see a permanent federal repatriation program to help navigate survivors in the reunification process.
We need more outreach, and we need a permanent office that helps people come back home and find their family.
Strongwind agrees and hopes to see a national inquiry into the 60s scoop.
We still don't know how many children were taken, where they were taken to, how many died in care.
In the meantime, Strongwind hopes more awareness on the 60s scoop will help others find their way back home. Alex Scarpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Coming up, the reality of a bad dream.
My house was flat, gone, nothing left, burnt to the ground.
Learning the news they most feared to hear.
How can you drive like this? No.
Then cracking this staircase. Those living near West Dalhousie, Nova Scotia, who were forced to flee while a wildfire raged, are starting to go home, and many are coming face to face for the first time with just how much has been lost. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth is in Annapolis Royal, where he saw firsthand the devastation inflicted upon a family. Paul.
Sandy, we spoke with one evacuee who just found out his family home is gone, destroyed in the wildfire.
Well, they called me and told me my house was flat, gone, nothing left, burnt to the ground.
James Milner and his partner, Donald Ruggles, evacuated their home in West Dalhousie almost 2 weeks ago. In a last-minute rush, they grabbed some belongings and fled the area. They've been living out of their car ever since.
I got one pair of boots, one pair of socks, one pair of joggers, one shirt.
Milner does not have insurance to cover the loss of his home and belongings.
None. You can't afford insurance nowadays, the way they charge everything.
The Long Lake wildfire is about 82 square kilometers in size and is burning in the remote deep woods, making it difficult to contain. More than 500 houses or properties have been evacuated. As crews continue to work in dangerous conditions, county officials are focused on supporting the people who have lost their homes.
We feel for these people, and we're trying to do and find avenues to support these people. It gives us more of a drive to try to help people, because we don't want to see people in our community suffer.
James Milner will return to his property when the fire is extinguished. He hopes to rebuild someday, but he doesn't know where the money will come from. Sandy.
Okay, Paul. A deepening mystery in Stratford, Ontario, where 5 of the city's famous swans have vanished without a trace. The birds are an attraction, with currently 18 in the flock. Of course, they are unofficially connected to the city's celebrated Stratford Theatre Festival. The city is asking for the public's help and isn't ruling out that they may have been taken. Commuter headaches after a massive sinkhole opened up in the east end of Toronto.
The infrastructure in Toronto is old. They can't afford to replace it all at once.
Crews scramble to carry out emergency repairs. Footage from the CTV News chopper shows the significant damage as a large portion of the intersection caved in. The collapse was caused by a water main break.
How can you drive like this?
And yes, this car is driving with a staircase on top of it. Police say the vehicle reversed into a building, striking the stairs, which then stayed attached. A 22-year-old woman has been charged with careless driving. A standoff over the leadership of the Centers for Disease Control appears to be over, with Donald Trump the winner and the director of America's top public health agency out.
So if people are not aligned with the president's vision and the secretary's vision to make our country healthy again, then we will gladly show them the door.
Trump nominated Susan Menares for the role, but she reportedly clashed with Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. over issues including changes to the COVID vaccine policy. The dismissal of Menares was followed by the resignations of at least 4 top officials. A crowd of colleagues at the CDC gave them a farewell ovation today as they were escorted out. Among those who stepped down is the deputy director and head of immunization. And Lisa Cook, a former governor of the U.S. Federal Reserve, is suing Donald Trump over her termination. Cook claims her dismissal was unlawful, while Trump says he had cause to fire Cook based on allegations of mortgage fraud. Cook says this was a clerical error. She was the first black woman to serve as Federal Reserve governor. After the break, getting to the bottom of myth and mystery. A museum curator in Montreal is working to piece together a mystery about ancient whale bones. It's the stuff of local lore in Smiths Falls, Ontario, that dates back nearly 150 years. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin has been studying it.
In the back rooms of McGill's Redpath Museum, curator Anthony Howell is working to solve a, well, whale of a mystery.
What we're looking at is 3 whale bones.
Howell is digging through archives.
Bones of humpback whale.
He's trying to figure out whether these are the 12,000-year-old whale bones at the heart of a legend from a town in Ontario. A quest that began last February with an email from the Smiths Falls Heritage House Museum.
I remember hearing it as early as being in elementary school.
Museum assistant Aidan Tucker was trying to verify whether the story of humpback whale bones found in 1882 during work to build a CP rail line and donated to the Redpath Museum was fact or fiction. Smiths Falls is nowhere near a body of water fit for a humpback whale now, but 12,000 years ago it was beneath what was then the Champlain Sea.
This is an important part of our history.
This is the annual report from 1883.
Howell painstakingly dug through handwritten archives and found evidence whale bones from Smiths Falls had indeed been deposited at the Redpath. He also found the bones he believes could be the ones.
These 2 were stored on top of cabinets in the mammal collection room.
Now he's working on collecting scientific evidence like carbon dating to link these bones to Smiths Falls and to determine whether they are indeed those of a humpback whale.
Unfortunately, Whaley McWhaleface is still in the lead for the whale naming contest.
All this has built excitement for the local legend in Smiths Falls, where a naming contest is now underway.
There's Sam Whale to Champlain. There's 1 vote for Anthony Howell.
Howell says there's still plenty of digging to do, but this fishtail, it turns out, could be true. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sanya Ronaldo. Your local CTV News is coming up. Be well.